Hello everyone and welcome to my Wrath the Lich King pre-patch class changes guide. In this video I'll be talking about the new talents and spells that will be introduced in the pre-patch for all the different classes, and I've also made a timeline so you can easily skip to the class that you plan to play in Wrath of the Lich King. I know I usually don't release such long videos on the channel, but then again I also want to try something new once in a while. Let me know how you feel about this in a comment below the video. Anyway, enjoy this one. The first class that I will cover is the Paladin, and Paladins get amazing buffs in Wrath of the Lich King, for example Retribution Paladins with more AoE damage. The new spell Divine Storm does 110% weapon damage to 4 targets within 8 yards. When you use Divine Storm, 25% of the damage that you do will also heal up to 3 party members, so the more targets that you hit, the more you will also heal. The judgment system will also see a huge change. In the pre-patch, you can now use any seal and then you use the judgment to get the different buff. For example, reducing the movement speed, restoring health, or mana every time you hit the target. Back in Burning Crusade, you had to use the right seal in order to get the right buff. For example, Seal of Wisdom followed by judgment to restore mana when you hit the target. This is no longer the case in the pre-patch. The duration of the different seals will also be increased from 30 seconds to 30 minutes. And back in Burning Crusade, whenever you used the judgment, you had to reapply a seal. In Wrath of the Lich King, the seal will no longer expire whenever you use a judgment. Hammer of Wrath will now be an instant spell that you will add to your rotation. The reason for this is because when it's instant, it will no longer reset your swing timer, and therefore it will be a big part of your DPS when the target is at 20% health or lower. Divine Protection will become such a useful spell, because now it will reduce your damage taken by 50% for the next 12 seconds. Back in Burning Crusade, it would provide you immunity to damage and spells, but when you did this, you would also lose your aggro as a tank. So now you can use Divine Protection when you're tanking. Avenger Shield will now be instant. This allows you to move and pull targets at the same time. Back in Burning Crusade, this had a cast time. This will have a huge impact on how fast you can tank as a Paladin, because now you can be in combat and easily pull more targets. At the bottom of the protection tree, you can choose the new talent, Hammer of the Righteous. This attack will hit your main target and up to 2 additional nearby targets. In the protection tree, a new talent has also been added. This is Divine Sacrifice, allowing the Paladin to use the sacrifice and transferring damage from the party and raid members to the Paladin. A useful tip for using this spell could also be to activate this as a healer and then use your Divine Shield at the same time. That way you will still redirect the damage to you, but you will be immune to all the damage because of your Divine Shield. Like all these palette changes wasn't enough, then you will also be able to choose the Ardent Defender talent. This is a new talent in the pre-patch, and if an attack is about to kill you, you will instead restore a lot of health. When this occurs, you will also get a 2 minutes debuff where you will not be able to benefit from Ardent Defender. The last Paladin talent I will cover is Beacon of Light. This buff you can cast on any of your friendly targets, and when you heal another target, the target with Beacon of Light will also be healed for 100% of the healing you did. So you could for example cast this on the Mage, and then when I heal myself, I will heal both targets for the same amount. What I usually do is to place the Beacon of Light on the main tank, and then I heal the rest of the raid. That way I always make sure that the tank receives healing. Next up is the Hunter, and in my opinion this will be so much more fun to play compared to Burning Crusade. Back in Burning Crusade, Disengage used to reduce your threat, but in Wrath of the Lich King this will be so fun to use. You will now leap backwards, so for example if you need to land a trap on a PvP target or you need to CC in raids and dungeons, then you can use Disengage together with a trap. All Hunters will by default be getting deterrence, and this will also be changed. So instead of increasing your dodge and parry, it will now deflect all attacks. This is amazing against casters, but you have to know that you will not be able to do any melee or ranged attacks whenever you activate deterrence. At the bottom of the Beast Mastery tree, you will learn how to tame exotic pets. One of these pets is for example the one that I try to tame right now in Shadowmoon Valley. Exotic pets will also have some unique abilities that other pets usually don't have. So definitely a fun spec to try out, also in case you would like to get a new pet that you have never been able to tame before. In the survival tree, you will be able to learn new spells, for example the Black Arrow. When you use this on a target, it will take increased damage from the Hunter. and you will also do a damage over time. Beside the black arrow, then you will also be able to choose the new talent, Explosive Shot, hitting the target for a lot of damage within the next couple of seconds. You can easily cast Black Arrow followed by Explosive Shot, and anytime soon you will be able to use yet another Explosive Shot. Also, whenever you trap a target, you will be able to use the Explosive Shot 2 times in a row. The reason why you will be able to use this 2 times in a row without triggering the cooldown is because you will get the buff Locked and Load. This is a talent in the survival tree, and whenever you trap the target, you will get this buff. In the Marksman's tree, you will still be able to choose the talent Aim Shot. But in the pre-patch and in Wrath the Lich King, this will now be an instant attack. This will especially be useful in PvP situations. For example, when an enemy healer is about to heal your current target, then you can cast Aim Shot instantly to reduce the healing received by 50%. At the bottom of the Marksman's tree, you find Chimera Shot. This is also an instant attack that deals a high amount of damage. Depending on the sting, it will also have an effect. For example, either instant damage, restoring mana, or trying to disarm your current target. And for those of you wondering if Aim Shot and Chimera Shot shares cooldown, then you will be able to use these at the same time. Next up is the Priest, and all the different specializations will get some useful abilities in the talent trees. The Shadow Priest will get yet another CC, Physic Horror. For the next 3 seconds, the target will be in horror, but also disarmed for the next 10 seconds. This will count for both melee and ranged weapons. On top of this, you can also pick the new talent, Dispersion, reducing your damage taken by 90% when you use this ability, and you can even use this when you're CC'd. During Dispersion, you will also restore 6% of your mana every second for the next 6 seconds. The Holy Priest can now pick Guardian Spirit, a buff you can place on a target to increase their healing taken by 40%. If an attack is about to kill the target, Guardian Spirit will also prevent this and instead restore 50% of the target's health. Just remember that you can only restore 50% health once. When this occurs, the buff will also be removed. The Disciplined Priest will get a new spell, which is called Penance. Penance you can either use to do damage to an enemy target, but you can also use this on friendly targets to heal them. The next class I will cover is the Mage, and back in Burning Crusade, Blizzard didn't have a chance to crit whenever you hit a target. In the pre-patch, this will now change, and Blizzard will have a chance to crit whenever you hit a target. Now that I'm already covering AoE spells, then I need to highlight the talent Firestarter in the Fire talent tree. Usually there's a cast time on your Flame Strike, but if you use a Blast Wave or Dragon Breath, then the next Flame Strike will also be instant. At the bottom of the Fire tree, you can learn the new spell Living Bomb, a damage over time that you can place at a target, and after 12 seconds it will explode and do AoE damage to all targets within 10 yards. The crazy thing about Living Bomb is that you can cast this at more than one target at a time. So in this case, I for example cast this at the 4 different target dummies. That way you will see a lot of explosions all the time and do a high amount of AoE damage. The new spell at the bottom of the Arcane tree is called Arcane Barrage. This is an instant spell with a short cooldown, and when you cast this, you will do a high amount of damage. Super fun, but also because now Arcane Mages will finally have some instant spells. Of course, beside the ability to use instant Pump Pyroblast. At the bottom of the Frost tree, you will find Deep Freeze, a spell you can use on a target to stun them for 5 seconds. During this stun, you will also have increased critical strike chance with your Frost spells, because this will work just like if the targets were frozen by Frost Nova. Rogues will still be a lot of fun to play in the next expansion. Back in Burning Crusade, you had to stack up wound poison, so the first time you applied this poison, it would reduce the healing taken by 10%, 20%, and all the way up to 50%. In Wrath the Lich King, this will change, so the moment you hit the target and you apply the poison, it will now reduce the healing taken by 50%. That way, you can easily swap to different targets to apply the poison to make the fight a lot more difficult for the enemy healer. The new talent for Assassination Rogues is Hunger for Blood. This will increase your damage by 5% for 1 minute. But in order to activate this, you'll need a bleed on the target. So you can for example just get a few combo points on the target, apply Rupture, and then you use Hunger for Blood. You can reapply Hunger for Blood at any time as long as you have a bleed on the target. Another big change for the Assassination Rogue is Cut to the Chase. When you spend 5 points into this talent tree, you will have a 100% chance to refresh the Slice and Dice. So let's say you have 2 seconds left on your Slice and Dice, and you use an Eviscerate or a Venom, then you will get 20 seconds of slice and dice. This is going to be huge in PvP and PvE, because now you don't need to spend 5 combo points to apply a 20-second slice and dice. In the combat tree, you can spend a few points into the new talent, Unfair Advantage. You could be AFK with this talent, because every time you dodge an attack, you will also do 100% main hand damage back to the target. Just remember that there's 1 second cooldown on this talent, so you cannot pull a lot of monsters and use evasion to kill them fast. However, if you wish to kill a target a lot faster, then you can spend a point into the new talent, Killing Spree. This ability you can use, and for the next 5 seconds you don't really need to do anything, because this skill will just take care of everything, and hopefully kill the target as well. If there's only 1 target and you use this ability, then it will stick to that target. But if there's 2 nearby targets or more, it will swap between these when you use this ability. Rogues will now also be able to use their stealth abilities when they're in combat and not even in stealth. In order to do this, you will need the new talent, Shadow Dance. Shadow Dance you can unlock at the bottom of the subtlety tree. When you activate this, then for the next 8 seconds you can for example use Cheap Shot, Ambush and Zap. You will however not be able to zap targets that is already in combat, but it's still an amazing ability that allows the player to kill a target in next to no time. Before I move on to the next class, then I need to point out that I'm not showing you all the new spells in Wrath the Lich King. That's because some of these you will unlock between level 71 and 80. If you wish to see all the different skills, then you can find them in my Wrath the Lich King class guides. Next up is the Shaman, and for those of you who like this class, then I have some great news for you. Because now you will be able to summon 4 totems at the same time. In the pre-patch, you will get Call of the Ancestors, Call of the Elements, and Call of the Spirits. At the bottom left, near your action bar, you can see these 3 icons. Each of them will summon 4 different totems, and you can customize what 4 totems each of these icons should be spawning. So the moment I use Call of the Ancestors, I will be spawning the 4 totems that I've chosen. Therefore, make sure to edit these so the Call of Ancestors, Spirit, and Elements doesn't spawn the same totems. And for those of you wondering if you can drag these down to your action bar, then the answer is yes. One of the spells that I'm looking forward to the most as a Shaman will be Thunderstorm, restoring 6% mana and doing AoE damage. But when you hit the targets, they will also be pushed back. In some situations, for example in PvP, you will be able to kill targets with this spell. Earthshock will no longer be able to interrupt a target. Instead we will get a new spell called Wind Shear. Wind Shear only has a 5 seconds cooldown, and when you use this on a certain spell, it will interrupt that school for the next 2 seconds. When you combine Wind Shear together with Grounding Totem, then it will be difficult for mages to for example sheep you. Shamans will now also be able to enchant their weapons with Earth Living, increasing their healing done, and every time you heal, you have 20% chance to place a heal over time on that target. What I usually do is to spam my chain heal, that way I heal more targets and have an increased chance to place one of these healing over times. At the bottom of the restoration tree, you find the spell Riptide, an instant heal that also places a heal over time. So useful in PvP situations when you kite around a pillar and you don't have time to stop and cast a heal. Maelstrom Weapon is a new talent you can choose at the second last row in the enhancement tree. Every time you do damage, you have a chance to get one of these, and this you can stack up to 5 times. By the time that you reaches 5 stacks, you will be able to do your next Lightning Bolt, Chain Lightning, Lesser Healing Wave or Healing Wave instantly. When I play Enhancement Shaman, I like to make a macro for my tank, so every time I have an instant heal, I can use this on the tank to help the raid. But of course, if no one needs any healing, just use Lightning Bolt or Chain Lightning. Feral Spirit is the final talent in the enhancement tree, allowing you to spawn 2 wolves that will assist you for the next 45 seconds. Whenever they do damage, they will also heal you, and the moment they reach the target, they will also be able to stun it. When you activate the wolves, you will also be able to use Spirit Walk, allowing you to remove any movement in parent effects and increasing you and the wolf's movement speed by 60% for 15 seconds. So, will warriors also be fun to play in the pre-patch? They definitely will be. In Burning Crusade, the tactical mastery talent used to be in the protection tree. This will now change and instead be in the arms tree. Arms warriors will also get Bladestorm, whirlwinding every second for the next 6 seconds, and it will hit up to 4 nearby targets when you do this. In addition to this, you can also use Bladestorm to break out of any snare and roots, for example Frost Nova from a Mage. And when your Blade Storm is active, mages will not be able to use Frost Nova to root you. Protection Warriors will now also get an AoE stun, also known as Shockwave. All targets in front of you within 10 yards will be stunned for 4 seconds. This becomes so handy as a tank, because now it will be easier for you to stack the monsters, but also assist your raid group in case someone pulls aggro. Another new spell in the middle of the protection tree is Vigilance, or however you pronounce this spell. This is a buff you can cast on a party member to reduce their damage taken by 3%, and 10% of the threat they cause will be transferred to the warrior. But just remember, you will only be able to keep this buff on one raid or party member. You can easily swap this to another target because there's no cooldown on the spell. Fury Warriors will now also be able to choose the talent Heroic Fury, removing all immobilizing effects and also resetting the cooldown of your intercept. The biggest change to the Fury tree is Titan's Grip, allowing you to use two two-handed weapons at the same time. This will however reduce your damage stun by 10%, but still, having two two-hand weapons will allow the warrior to do some insane damage. Next up is the Druid, but before I show you any of the new talents and spells, then I need to highlight something way more important. In Wrath of the Lich King, your Druid forms will also have some different colors, and these you can edit at the barber shop. You simply just change your hair color of your character, and this will also change the color of your form. A new talent that you can pick quite early in the Feral tree is Survival Instincts. This will increase your maximum health by 30% for the next 20 seconds. When this expires, you will also lose the 30% health. Having a spell like this will have a huge impact on your tanking, and it will also increase your chance of surviving some big hits. Back in Burning Crusade, Feral Charge was already in the game, but you were only able to use this as a bear. In Wrath of the Lich King, you will also be able to use this in cat form, but instead you will be leaping behind the target. Predatory Strikes also changes. For every combat point that you use, you have 20% chance to make your next spell instant. So with 5 combo points, you have a 100% chance to make your next spell instant. This is so useful in PvE if you need to assist with a heal, but also in PvP in case you need to cyclone a target. The last big change for Feral Druids is Berserk, an ability you can use to remove the cooldown of your Mangle in bear form. When you use this, you will also hit up to 3 targets with Mangle. In cat form, it's a bit different, because now all spells will have a reduced energy cost of 50%, allowing the Druid to push out a lot of damage during Berserk. Wild Growth is a new talent for Restoration Druids, an AoE heal that is placed on nearby targets within 15 yards of the Druid. You can also cast Wild Growth on other players, and within 15 yards of that target, 4 other players will be healed. Boomkins will get a new AoE ability, Starfall. This you can activate and run around and all of a sudden do a high amount of AoE damage. It will last for 10 seconds or 20 stars. The good thing about this spell is that you don't really need to target anything, you just activate it, run around and pull everything. Every time you see one of these glowing stars, it will consume one of the charges, and like I mentioned, it's either 20 stars or 10 seconds. But the new best Druid spell is definitely Typhoon, a damaging ability that does a bit of AoE damage, but also knocking back targets and dazing them for 6 seconds. This is one of my favorite PvP spells, but it can also become handy in PvE. At this point, it's now also time for me to cover the last class in this guide, which is the Warlock. The Fell Hunter pet will now provide a new buff, which is called Fell Intelligence. This will increase the intellect and spirit of the party and raid group. In the Destruction tree, you can choose Shadow Fury. This was also available in Burning Crusade, but back then it had a cast time. This is no longer the case, so now you can do a quick stun followed by a fear. One of the most insane Warlock spells will also be introduced in this expansion. Chaos Bolt will deal a high amount of damage, and the cooldown of this spell is only 12 seconds. At the same time, people will not be able to resist this, and if a priest shield a target and you cast at that target, then you will pierce through the shield. At the bottom of the Affliction tree, you can pick the talent Haunt. This will do a decent amount of damage, but also increase the damage over time by shadow spells by 20% for the next 12 seconds. After 12 seconds, you will also be healed by 100% of the damage that you did with Haunt. If someone dispels a target with Haunt in PvP, then you will also be healed by 100% of the damage that you did. At the bottom of the Demonology tree, you can pick a new talent. This will transform you into a demon for 30 seconds. When you use this spell, you will also increase your armor by 600%, increase the damage that you do by 20%, and reduce the chance to be critical striked by 6%, allowing the Warlock to tank in this form. When you're in this form, you will also get some new spells, for example the possibility to do an AoE taunt, AoE damage, but also a charge, and last but not least, a cleave damage. Overall, this specialization is so tanky, and it will also allow a Warlock to boost in certain dungeons, because now you can pull a lot of enemies, activate your AoE spell, and kill them in the 30 seconds window. But yeah, that's also about it for this video. In case you would like to see more Wrath the Lich King Classic related content, then make sure to check out the channel or subscribe for more content in the future. As always, thank you so much for watching and have an amazing day. Peace.